5 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in this Friday morning. Kelli Hart is in the studio, making it just a little more beautiful. By the way, you are beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know. I've known this for a while about you. But with that photo you posted,
Thank you.
Wow, that was nice.
Thank you. Thank you. Marcy Sandler in town shot some portraits of me, and that happened to be one of my favorites.
And when was that? Was that like recently? And how come you didn't invite us?
Maybe like a year or so ago.
We could have come. We could have watched and put those flower petals on you.
No, that was one of those one-on-one, very private moments.
I bet.
Yeah. Marcy and I got really personal.
Do you remember the photographer for Rolling Stone, the lady photographer? She was very famous. She would get like Fleetwood Mac to lay on the bed and stuff like that. Annie, was it Annie? Oh gosh,
I don't know.
Can't remember her name. No, before
I've seen those photos though.
Yeah.
I've seen those photos. Professionals have a way of just knowing exactly what to do to make you feel completely comfortable. I mean, honestly, initially, yes, there's a little bit of, apprehension, but that's what they do, and they're going to make you look beautiful and capture a beautiful moment. So you let them do what they do.
Last week's show kind of underscored something for me, by the way.
Okay.
The fact that artists are contributing to a very artsy magazine, and yet it's still a business.
Yes.
I love the fact that has happened.
Yes.
It doesn't always happen that way.
I know. And we got really good feedback after last week's show. There was a lot of artists here in town that really appreciated the fact that we brought up the topic of what is art worth, because it's hard for us sometimes to say it's worth hard. What it is.
Very hard. Kelli, it looks like your guest is calling in on the line.
Okay.
So I'll let you introduce.
Wonderful. Good morning, Elisa.
Good morning.
Hi, good morning. I have an amazing guest this morning. In this month's issue, I had an honor to write a feature story, which for me was very difficult to write, just as a person, but as a mother especially, on the topic of distracted driving. And this is an issue that has been such a hot topic and very controversial. And the statistics are there to proven statistics that distracted driving is deadly. It's an issue, and people have been fighting left and right to try to get some laws put into place to protect not just the people behind the wheel, but innocent bystanders that are being harmed by people who are driving distracted. So I did a little bit of research, and I've known Elisa for many, many years. When I had the flower shop, she was a customer of mine, and I got talking to her, and it is very unfortunate, but her daughter, Margay, was killed.
Oh, my goodness.
A few years back by a gentleman who was distracted. He was driving a very large semi-truck. And I'm going to let her kind of tell the story for you, because I think she can best, and it's a very touching story. In fact, when I wrote it, I reached back out to her, and it was a very difficult thing for me to write because I wanted to write it very authentic. And I reached out to her and I said, there are some sentences in here that I've written that to me are kind of graphic, but I feel like if they're not graphic, they're not telling the truth. And I want to write the truth of the dangers of distracted driving. I also didn't want her to pick it up and read it and have to relive that. But she said, no, Kelli, if you're not writing it with all of the facts, the way that it really happened, you're not doing the story any justice. So, Elisa, I'm going to let you kind of walk us through what happened with Margay and how you felt that very morning.
Okay. Thank you so much. So it was September 23rd of 2008. I'm coming up on the 6-year anniversary this coming up Tuesday. And it was a normal day, just as, every day prior to that had been. Margay was in 8th grade. She had just started 8th grade. Went to school, on her way home from school, and a big bright yellow school bus, as most of our children go to and from every day. Never in a million years did I think that my child could be harmed or, even worse, killed on her school bus. So the school bus is on their way home from school, and a gentleman traveling in a semi-truck behind them. He had been behind them for over a mile, later openly admitted in court that he never saw the bus. He was traveling at approximately 60 miles an hour. The kids were getting ready to stop for a routine bus stop, letting off 3 siblings, 2 sisters and a brother, when he failed to see that the bus lights were on and that they were coming to a stop. So he rear-ended the bus at approximately 60 miles an hour, tossing them an entire football field forward. There were 21 kids on the bus, plus the driver, plus himself. So 23 people were involved. Everybody was able to get out either on their own or had assistance getting out, and Margay was not able to get out, and the bus and the truck caught on fire. Now, with that being said, I know that this is hard for some people to listen to, but when I tell the story, I want people to know and to understand just exactly how Margay died. She did not have a broken bone in her body. She did not have any contusions in her head. She was unable to get out, and she burned to death on that school bus. Now, later on, it was proven that he was fatigued and that he was distracted by conversation with the cell phone. And I always want to make sure that people understand that it was not text messaging that he was doing. It was conversation. I know there's a big campaign right now for texting. It kind of really upsets me personally, because I think that it's sending out the wrong message. This man was not texting, he was talking on his phone. So anyways, with that being said, Margay would be unable to get off the bus, and she would be killed in that fire. So I got a phone call a little while later, not knowing anything had happened, and I am told that the bus was involved in a crash. And I thought, what could be so bad? It's a school bus. It's a big, bright yellow school bus. How in the world could it be that bad? That was my first thought. And then I was told that the bus and the truck were on fire. And when I was told that the bus and the truck were on fire, my heart sank into my gut. I went to the crash scene, and I was shuffled around back and forth between the police and the school board. They were trying to figure out, you know, how many kids were on the bus, who went where. Children went to Ocala Hospital. Other children went to Gainesville hospitals. So there I am standing, looking, and I see all of these kids on the fence. It happened right in front of a horse farm. And I just started asking the kids, where's Margay? Where's Margay? Where's Frances Margay? And there was no Margay. And I have never felt this sense of, I don't even know how to describe it, dread that came over me. So I stayed at the park waiting for them to try and figure out where Margay was, because in my head she was at a hospital, and I needed to know whether I go to Ocala or I go to Shands. Life Flight had landed, and there was a possibility, you know, maybe it was Orlando. And then I was told that I needed to go over to the park across the street, and I needed to wait. So I went over to the park across the street, and I was there, it seemed like forever. And I remember looking to my left and seeing a wall of green uniforms come at me. And right then and there, I knew that Margay was not coming home, that Margay was on that bus. And that's what they told me, that Margay was deceased on the bus. And I couldn't, in my head, I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't understand how on a bright Florida September afternoon with no weather, no curves, no hills, how you could hit a big bright yellow school bus. Now I completely understand how that happens because of what's going on in your brain. So,
Well, and first of all, Elisa, I just want to, I'm so touched. I mean, I've heard you tell me this story before. I've written about this story, and even to hear you say it again, I'm so moved. You don't have to be a mother. You don't have to have lost somebody just to be able to comprehend how something like that must feel. And it really struck home with me when I finished the story and I decided on the title of the story, which was But No Margay. And when we talked about this story and you told me that was exactly what you've said numerous times, you know, you went and you saw these children lined up by the fence and EMTs and school board members, but no Margay, it kind of brought the whole thing home. And she has asked the question even throughout the feature, you know, it's who is the next Margay? Is it you? Is it some innocent person that's crossing the street and you're not paying attention? Is it your own child? And it can happen to any of us in any condition on any given day in a matter of seconds. And we've got to take this thing serious. And I know that you've spent a lot of time going to distracted driving conferences and speaking with people and making it your mission to educate us, which is exactly why I wanted to write about this, not only to honor Margay and remember her and to continue to remember her, but to continue to educate people on this subject. And I don't know if we have to take a break at all, but we're going to take a break. If you'll hang on the phone when we come back, I want to talk about the logistics of distracted driving cognitively and being able to multitask and people's, you know, misperceptions of that and ways that we can maybe save another life. So hang on the phone for us, okay?
We'll be right back.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Safe boating is no accident. A couple showers and a heavy thunderstorm this afternoon, otherwise mostly cloudy today with a high 82 to 85. Then partly cloudy tonight with a couple showers and thunderstorms, especially during the evening, a low 68 to 73. Variable clouds tomorrow with a couple showers and thunderstorms, a high 82 to 85. And then on Sunday, times of clouds and sunshine with a shower or thunderstorm around, mainly during the afternoon, a high 85 to 88. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Evan Duffy.
On this episode of What Not to Do, brought to you by
Mike Scott Plumbing. If water runs through it, we do it.
Okay, easy. All right, set her down. Over there. Easy.
What are you doing?
Oh, honey, you're home early. Nothing.
Really? Because it looks to me like you've torn up the entire yard with this giant tractor.
Not all of it. There is a small section over there I didn't
That's
get.
not even funny. Why are you tearing up my yard?
Well, the sprinkler head broke.
So you thought it was a good idea to fix it with a huge tractor?
Well, not at first, but then when I tried to fix it, I hit the main line, thought it would be a good
You
idea
thought
if...
all of this was a good idea? Here's an idea. Why don't you just call Mike Scott Plumbing? It's that easy. In fact, let me help you out with that. 237-2888.
But it's the weekend.
I know. They don't charge extra for nights, weekends, or holidays. Remember the commercials? If water runs through it, they do it. And they're already on their way. So get this monstrosity out of my yard.
On next week's episode of What Not to Do.
A crane? Really?
Hi, I'm Yvette, and I'm here to tell you a few things about ABC Fredericks Appliance. They sell not only new, but used guaranteed appliances. When you call ABC Fredericks Appliance, they will provide service on what they sell and any appliances that you own. ABC Fredericks Appliance is located in Bellevue, right over the railroad tracks. Call 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. That's 352-629-5181. ABC Fredericks Appliance.
News Talk 1370. WOCA invites you to discover your full business potential. News Talk Radio is the perfect environment for your advertising. WOCA's News Talk format pinpoints information-hungry, better educated, high-income adults. So use us to talk to them. Call 732-8000. 732-8000. We're Ocala News Talk Radio. News Talk 1370 WOCA.
All right, 19 minutes after 10 o'clock, let's return to Ocala Magazine Radio and your host, Kelli Hart.
Okay, thank you. So what I want to really talk about now, because like I said before, you've traveled all over the place and gone to so many conferences and forums on the subject, and you know probably more than anybody else some of the statistics on distracted driving, and you had laid out for me this almost like a challenge to people who don't understand it, where you said you want someone to sit down in their living room in front of their favorite television program, at the same time call up a friend and be on the phone with that friend and try to engage in both the dialogue that you're listening to and the television program that you're watching, and your brain can't do it. One of those two things are going to be neglected, and that's the same idea behind distracted driving. So tell us a little bit about just the statistics behind it. So everyone thinks they're invincible. This cannot happen to me, but it's a proven fact that we cannot do both things, and I'd like for you to talk a little bit about that.
Okay, so the research shows the same findings over and over and over again, and that is that multitasking is a myth to approximately 98% of the population. So what happens in your brain when you're driving, that's a cognitive task. And when you are having conversation, that is another cognitive task. So what happens and why people think that they can do this is that the brain can switch back and forth very rapidly from one task to another, and it fools us into thinking that we are actually handling two tasks. Then that means that we're multitasking. So I have said to people many, many, many times, listen, if you truly think that you can do this, go get your phone, sit down on the couch where you are safe, turn on the television, try and have a conversation with somebody that you're interested in talking to, and follow along with the television program. The majority of us cannot do this. And how many times, I ask you, just take a moment and think about this. How many times have you done this? How many times have you been watching a program and talking on the phone and thought, oh man, I just missed what was going on in that program? Now, I want you to think about this. How many times have you been in your vehicle and you've driven from point A to point B and you've been on your phone and you cannot recall what you just drove through because your brain is involved in a cognitive task. So you're just kind of on autopilot. Now, we have all of these people driving around on autopilot. It is just a matter of time before one of us crashes into somebody else and somebody's margay is going to get hurt. Every single one of us has a margay out there. We all have friends and family members that we, cherish and that we want to come home at the end of the day. And, I have heard every excuse in the book of why, I can do this. Oh, I got this. I can multitask. I have my dishes going and I'm cooking supper at the same time. And I will tell people, really think about what you just said. You go to the stove and you turn on a button, and then you go to the sink and you turn the water on. Those are not two cognitive tasks. The research out there shows that we cannot effectively handle two tasks at the same time. And if you think that I'm just a mom who's upset because I lost my daughter, you're correct. However, I challenge you to look up some of this research on your own. You can go to the National Safety Council's website and look up the white paper that will give you a plethora of information on this research that's being done. The lead cognitive research in this country is done at the University of Utah with Dr. David Strayer and Dr. Joel Cooper. I hope that you will check them out. There's also a doctor in Kansas at the University of Kansas. His name is Paul Atchley. And I have met these gentlemen and have been told by these gentlemen, that they are very aware of Margay's story and what happened, and that I had one of them tell me that he will continue to do this research as long as it takes until people understand how deadly distracted driving.
I know the same year that Margay's life was taken, there was another almost 6,000 lives that were taken and over 500,000 people that were injured through acts of distracted driving. So I guess my question has been and will continue to be, why are these governing bodies and lawmakers not taking this more seriously? I mean, I see some of the things that are being discussed locally in city council, flags and pants and things of that nature, and then I see where something as dangerous and deadly as distracted driving is a secondary law, which there were a few people I was talking to when I was researching and reading on some things for the story, and they kept saying to me, well, it's a law, you can get a ticket and you can get pulled over. And I said, no, that's where people aren't truly understanding the fact that it is a secondary law. You have to commit some other moving violation or some other crime in order for them to even enforce that. And how much of it is even being enforced is another story. So I did try to reach out to our local agencies and get a number of how many tickets that they wrote for this particular secondary law, and could not get a call back. So I'm not really sure what that number is, but the bottom line is, why in the world? I mean, there are pictures in this story, and they're very graphic, but they are what they are. The bus on fire, the bus aftermath, beautiful picture of Margay, the story of her life and where it ended and how it could have been avoided. But yet we still don't have these laws in place. So in talking to people, Elisa, what are you hearing as a reason for this not being a mandatory law?
Well, I'd like to tell a quick personal story. So a little over a year after Margay was killed, I was invited to go to Chicago. Oprah Winfrey did a story on Margay. So I am leaving. I'm in the audience, and I'm leaving. And I had a lady in the audience say to me, she was very upset about it, and she was like, why are our government officials not doing anything about this, and why aren't there laws? And I just looked at her and I said, you know what? I said, I think that we don't have laws in place because I am not aware that any politician got the phone call that I got the morning after Margay was killed.
Right.
I got a phone call from the medical examiner asking me for Margay's dental information, and then telling me that he very well may not be able to identify her with her dental records, and that he may have to draw a DNA sample from Margay's father and I. And, I think that unfortunately what it's going to take is a lawmaker
Sure.
to get the phone call that I got. The law that Florida has is a joke to me. It's a secondary offense, and it's a $30 fine. That's no deterrent. That is absolutely no deterrent. I think that what we have to do, people that have lost and people that are aware, need to get together, need to do the research and have the facts, and take this research and take this facts and demand that something be done about it before it happens to you. It is only a matter of time before you are impacted by a distracted driving crash of some sort.
Absolutely. And we could talk about this for days and days and days, because there are just so many stories that we could share, personal stories, and I want to thank you for calling in and sharing this. And what I encourage people to do is to pick up an issue, not only pick up the issue, but go to our digital issue, go to our website, find this story and share it on social media, because the more people that can read this, the more people who will be a little bit more educated, maybe light a fire under some people to do something about this. Maybe it's only a secondary law, but use your judgment. You're operating a vehicle. You have a responsibility. And I want to thank you again for being here. We love you. We love Margay. We hope that this story did just a little bit of a service in honoring her. And thank you, Larry, for having us this morning.
Thank you so much. And one last thing I'd like to say is please never forget Margay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll be right back.
Be your man tonight, Ocala, baby. What makes you look so good? Ocala, baby. What makes you look so
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.